topic number 5. Should read topic number 5 says Dr. Frances Cress-Welsing gives her thoughts on the Pretendians. Is she correct? The interesting thing, I think the first of the year is her birthday. So her birthday just went by as well. She's since passed on like 7 years ago, but um, it's good that folks still remember her. This prompt comes with a link that takes us to Twitter. So this is a post from Big Malcolm X Play Cousin, another Omawale. I don't know if that's who. No. Anthony was talking about Omawale Africa, so it wasn't him. He quotes, "My grandmother said we have some Indian in us," end of quote. See, black people started saying Indian because it had become embarrassing to know that the slave master had essayed somebody because they have long, straight hair. Quote, "I'm part Indian. No, you were essayed," says Dr. Frances Cress-Welsing. Let's watch it in her own words.
Black people filling out the census. Let's see. I think I got some French. The white people just checked. White. Yeah. And they finished that. And I think I got, well, let's see. Now, grandmother said we had Irish. See, black people started saying Indian because it was embarrassing to know that the slave master had raped somebody. And so they got long, straight hair. So the black, no, I'm part Indian. No, you were raped. Black people filling out the census. Let's see. I think I got some French. The white people just checked. White. Yeah. And they finished that. And I think I got, well, let's see. Now, grandmother said we had Irish. See, black people started saying Indian because it was embarrassing to know that the slave master had raped somebody. And so they got long, straight hair. So the black, no, I'm part Indian. No, you were raped. Black people filling out.
Your mic is muted.
Oh, sorry about that. Yeah, I played it twice so everyone could catch it. Only in the chat says, "Oh, damn, I am that guy." Yeah, you're that guy who's gonna go right now. What say you, Oni?
All right. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Well, no, sorry. Somebody was having this little debate on, about like these Pretendians. I don't know how, but they just jumped on something I wrote on Twitter for some reason. I was just making a joke about raccoons, and they just jumped at me. But somebody was making an argument. They were like, "Look, if you were to do a genetic study, average genotype of African Americans, they were like it would be 78% African." 20% European and like 0.3% Native American or something like that. Because that was the average, genotype. And so, what she's saying is essentially, yeah, if there is any sort of non-African ancestry on average, it's going to be a white person's DNA. Now, that's not to say that there were no Native Americans, who procreated with African people. That's not to say there were no, that's not to say there's no Africans who didn't have any procreation with Europeans. It's just to say that on average, considering the number of people that think that they're Native American, it's just kind of absurd. And again, it's really a product of the public school system, one. And two, there's another really important thing, a product of, all right, well, I'll say it this way. It's a product of, one, we're having these conversations as children, okay? I don't know if we realize this, but a lot of the conversations that we have, or a lot of the knowledge that we're running off of, is the knowledge that we picked up as children. In fact, a lot of people do not educate themselves after school. And worse off, they do not educate, like they don't educate themselves outside of school, right? So after your childhood, you kind of stop reading, you kind of stop learning. And so a lot of it might be, hey, I asked my grandmother when I was 13, why is it that I have these sort of features? And, yeah, your grandmother's not going to say, oh, well, it's because you're part white or some shit, right? If that's the reasoning that, might be there, right? But she's going to say, she's going to just make up, oh, well, you heard of the Indians, right? Blah, blah, blah. But here's the thing. And I say this because the reason why I'm so aggressive to this is because there's two things to it, right? When I was younger, my cousin, who's a Jamaican, okay, believed that because her hair texture was different from my hair texture. This is my cousin, okay? Because her hair texture was different from my hair texture, she was part Native American, okay? And of course, I'm like, first off, that doesn't make any sense because, obviously your mother is my father's brother, my father's sister, sorry. But she's like, okay, well, my father's side or some shit, right? The reason why her hair was straight was because she was getting hair relaxers. But the thing about us, like going through this American public school system thing, is that you're really not taught to be you or to think like you, okay? And so even my own personal experience, because I used to be made fun of in school because, I comb my hair in the morning and, and at school, they're like, damn, you got that. Like, you ain't comb your hair. So I stopped combing my hair for a couple of weeks and it just twisted automatically, to the point where, that's what freeform locks are, right? And the thing is, a lot of Black people don't even know how freeform locks happen. So like, if you guys see my hair right now, it does freeform locks. Nobody's locking it. Nobody's twisting it. But we don't know because we're mostly told to either comb it or cut it, right? So just the way that our hair grows out of our head, we will not know in the Western world because, one, we don't let it grow naturally, right? We always either twist it, comb it, cut it, right? But then two, we go to school systems that do not teach us about our own hair. And so my cousin, Jamaican girl, right, literally thought that her hair was straight, even though she was actively getting it processed every once in a while because that was just considered hair care. I'm saying that to say that, yeah, a lot of people, a lot of us do not get knowledge after school. And then worse, I'll put it this way, because I have to finish because we know we're on limited time. And worse, we we don't. All right, well, I forgot it. So that's about it. Yeah.
Appreciate that. Real Black Gentleman, what say you?
I think in the main part she is right. Because when you look at it, when you think about it, I mean, a lot of them Indians came across from Asia. I mean, frankly, a lot of them Indians is more closely related to Asian and white people than, they would give themselves credit for. I mean, they got straight here, just like, them motherfuckers in Japan and in China, it is what it is. It's like, so like, although there are, I mean, it's complicated because, again, there are some African people who did come over here. So like, the whole the ethnicities in the how peoples are in the so-called new world, even like 1,000 years ago, is an interesting thing that still needs to be researched and rediscovered. Because there are a lot of hard Black people out here 1,000 years ago doing what they needed to do. There's too much there where peoples have been coming over here. So like part of that whole Black Indian thing is true, just a touch, but I mean, it's hard to map out. I would love to see a map of where the Black Indians were, because I know that they weren't everywhere. And then when we're talking about North America, that's really you know what I'm saying? You got to really think about it. You could put flesh on them bones, but like what she's saying, what Press is saying, yeah, I mean, let's face it. When we talk about generations, you know what I'm saying? Like, we aren't all born at the same time. There's a whole bunch of like age discrepancies. I mean, when we're discussing the issue at hand, you got to think about what's going on here. When these things are taking place, genetics is incredibly powerful, but you gotta have genealogy. You know what I'm saying? To as a structure, those two things when used in tandem, which is what I think that if we can get good at that, I mean, you gotta have. It's one thing to say, okay, we have an idea of where the peoples that your stuff comes from, where they are now, what they call themselves. The problem is people move around or not. You know, you know what I'm saying? And it is what it is. For me to try to describe this takes a lot of time. You know what I'm saying? It's like everyone's parents aren't the same age, and over a period of time, there can be a significant gap in how, like, you know, what your generations are. You may have, you know, by the 1500s, you know, you don't have the same number of generations literally between your father and your mother's direct line, just because people have different ages. You know what I'm saying? That's why when you say, when we're talking about genetics, you do need a hard genealogical structure. Although again, that's what slavery took away from Black people, is our hard hereditary sciences that we had back on the continent. Because rest assured, we had hereditary sciences. We knew who peoples were and where people come from. We knew him and his people. We knew all of that. That was a given. You gotta believe that we knew well more about who we were back then than we do now. Because Lord knows we find ourselves, frankly, I mean, it becomes incestuous because we don't really know who we are in the hard family tree of a lot of this. But I'm gonna pass the mic.
Appreciate that, RBG. Buano, what say you?
Yeah, for me, this is a bit of a difficult question because when someone says to me that a Black person says to me they have Indian in their family, I have to figure out which Indian you mean, and where you are from, If you are a Jamaican person who says, I have Indian in my family, then I'm thinking to myself, okay, East Indians, people from India did actually come to Jamaica and live among the Black population of Jamaica and integrate themselves with many Black people in Jamaica. So credibly, you could make that claim. And I believe you. I said, okay, you have Indian in your family, no problem. If you from Guyana, if you from Trinidad and Tobago, I'll even believe you. But you can't tell me that I'm Indian and I'm from Port-au-Prince. I'm not gonna believe you. I'm not gonna believe you. Can even tell me you from Dominica. You can be from any Caribbean island, but don't tell me you from Haiti and say you Indian. I'm not gonna believe you. And also too, let me say this too. Um, when you say that I am part Indian, what do you mean by that? Are you suggesting to me, well, I have ancestry with the so-called original inhabitants of um of the Americas? I don't know. That is a bit of a reach for me because the books say that many of the Indians were slaughtered. Many of the Indians were slaughtered. But I'm knowing that there were Indians like the Tainos and shit like that, who exist on some Caribbean islands. It wasn't completely decimated. And also in places like Venezuela and in different parts of South America. So these are credible claims because they would have integrated with the indigenous, with the Black population who would have came there after the Spaniards and the English and the French would have brought them into these areas. So it becomes like a very mixed kind of conversation because when you look at the histories of these people in the North America, it takes on a different kind of meaning. Takes on a different kind of meaning because now you're talking about the Indian population who was there when Christopher Columbus came there, and based on off of where your family history was at the time or migrated to, That's a valid claim. But now we living in the days of information, and you could always take your DNA and discover what your family histories and backgrounds are in terms of the DNA. What you do with that is up to you. I look at the majority of my blood sampling, and if the majority of my blood sampling is 80 to 90% African, I arrive at that because I understand within that history you have a small percentage of rape and harm involved because how we got to this part of the world. So if it's 10%, it's 10% that I don't acknowledge. If it's 15%, it's 15% that I don't acknowledge. I do acknowledge the 80 to 85% of black blood that's coursing through my veins. If if a small percentage of that is Indian, I have to ask myself, well, how did this percentage get in there? And when I hear the Pretendians talk or the Indians talk, they never talk about Indian slavery that existed in the Americas. Because Indian slavery was real in the South in North America. They don't talk about that. I don't know why. I really don't know why. But for me, I am proud to make the claim of being an African person and having African status, and there's no shame in that. I have my family heritage and bloodline has proven that we are the fittest of the fittest people on this planet to have survived transatlantic slave trade, which is a monumental task where many human beings was left at the bottom of the ocean and millions more was left on the coast of Africa because they didn't make it. My family bloodline was strong enough to make it over here. That is a task in itself. That means my family bloodline was the fittest of the fittest. Now, whoever, whatever happened during my time here, have no relevance to the fact that my family bloodline was able to survive that horrific experience and is still continuing up to this day. This is what I want to associate myself and my history to, as opposed to saying I'm part Indian, to disassociate myself from the African world because they feel like it's some shameful status that I. Even though the blacks in this part of the world went from slave status to the top of the hill, to the top of the mountain, the accomplishments that a black man has made in the so-called Western world on top of the oppression that he had to endure, but it continues to expose the rest of the world that we are the best of the best in human history. Why would people want to dissociate themselves from that and talk to the little small, little insignificant percentage engine they have in their family? I don't know. I only could leave it to ignorance. But I'll stop there. It's been wonderful, Kofi, you having me and inviting me on your show to give my sentiments and feelings. And I appreciate all the brothers and all the opinions you all had tonight. And I'll just leave it there.
Appreciate that, Buana. By the way, when Buana says the Tainos and them weren't all wiped out in the Caribbean, that's true. The Caribs were still around. In fact, if you want to, we were talking about music earlier. If you want some great reggae music, there's a what's that group we get called again? The Kalingo Indians, I think is the name. There's a brother named Nazio Fontaine. If you look at Nazio Fontaine, you could tell he came from like the Taino Indians. Let me find an image for you here. You could tell. And again, listen,
I think it's
look up that
pronounced
name, Nazio.
Colorado. I think it's Colorado. I think it's pronounced Colorado.
Yeah, Colorado. Yeah, Colorado. That's right. This is Nazio Fontaine. Am I sharing this? This is Nazio Fontaine. You could tell he's an African, but he has that Taino admixture to him. But absolutely, if you're not familiar with his music, I want to say he's the closest thing to Bob Marley. With all due respect to Ziggy and them, he's the closest in terms of sound, in terms of musical structure, and stuff like that. With all of that said, last but not least, let's hear from Black Steel.
So I'm gonna say this, not talking about genetics or everything. I agree with Dr. Welsing, and what she's really touching on is, to me, the low racial esteem that African people, at least in the Americas, have, because this is an anti-black society. This is an anti. We live in a white-dominated society where blackness is seen as inherently bad. So when you're stuck in a world like that, you internalize those negative thoughts and feelings about blackness. So about African people, you look at the television and you see nothing but, you see the people starving, you see war, you see all these. You don't want to be associated with that. So people create these narratives. They create this mythology. Oh, I'm not African. I'm a Cherokee Indian. I'm a this. I'm a that. You walk around with feathers in your hair, and these people didn't even wear feathers. You don't speak the language. You don't know anything about the customs. But you rather pretend. You rather live in a world of make believe because you hate Africa so much because of what you've been taught. So you come up with that you say you have Indian in your family. You don't want to acknowledge the fact that your great granddaddy was a slave master and he messed with your great grandmama. There was nothing you could do about it. It just, and again, I think we always talk about people having a victim mentality. There's nothing wrong with the fact that you're a victim. That something happened to your people. There's no shame in that your ancestors were enslaved. The shame should be the people who enslave them. But yeah, we've taken this narrative about there's something wrong with us. There's something wrong with being who we are. So then we try to escape it. So now we have first with the Hebrew Israelites, with the Hebrews, the Native Americans. Each is in America. Mississippi is really the Nile River, and then we're aliens from another planet. And it's just it's you laugh at it because it's funny, but at the same time it's sad because you see the lengths people will go to deny where they're from or deny who we're the Asiatic black man. What's wrong with Africa? There's nothing wrong with being Africa. Africans have endured things that have driven other people to extinction. I listened to another stream today. We're talking about colonization and slavery. So Africa was colonized, in the towards the end of the 19th century, right? And that's not. I mean, in the big history, that's not really that long. Because look, you can look at someplace like Ireland that was colonized by the British in the 1290s. We're talking about during the reign of Edward the First, King Longshanks, and they've been under oppression of the British since then. So African people have put up the strongest resistance. We've been colonized the least, but yeah, you have African people who want to escape and pretend to be the people who've been dominated the most. Europeans came and took over two continents from the Native American people, two, North and South America, and put them on reservations. You took 90% of their land, exterminated most of them through your diseases and warfare, put them on the worst land possible, and then you got black people say, I want to be like them. What the fuck? But you call them black people colonized. Black people losers. We're the ones who every resistance movement in this planet has modeled themselves after our struggle. I think we often forget sometimes that what was his name from the Vietnamese? Ho Chi Minh. Ho Chi Minh was in the UNIA. He was a follower of Garvey. He took that shit that Garvey taught black people and took it to Vietnam. So why are we trying to model ourselves on the people who were least able to withstand white domination? They should be like us. So yeah, this whole make believe stuff it's funny. We can laugh at it, and I'm gonna continue to laugh at it. I don't give a fuck what nobody's saying. It's hilarious to me. I can see you at the comic book convention dressed up like a Vulcan and shit, like you a Klingon, whatever. That's fine, whatever. It's cool. But ultimately, it comes from low racial esteem, and you got to deal with that. I'll leave it there. Thank you.
Coco, before we go, I wanna answer somebody before we go. Just something for him to chew on, because he say that if, how we the best of the best and we are at the bottom. I want to answer that. And the Haitian Indian know what I'm talking about. They say that taking slavery. I want to answer that. They say that when slaves were imported to Haiti, the timeline was 7 years. After 7 years, they had to get a crop of fresh slavery slaves from Africa because of the harsh environment of slavery in Haiti. This Haitian Indian talking right now as a survivor because the chances of you being able to type right now from New York City, the probability of that is almost zero. So the fact that your ancestors was able to endure that experience and have a man like you to sit up and talk about how you at the bottom right now is really ridiculous. I hope some one of these days though you get some knowledge, brother. You know, I get none but love for you, bro. But you're lost in the sauce, bro. You're really lost in the sauce. Just the mere fact that you even could read in 21st century and the fact that you still exist, the probability of that is very, very minimal. Go read your own history, brother. Take some time to do that one day. I'll leave it there. Y'all brothers have a great week.
Any last thoughts on this?
I'm just gonna say this. I'm just gonna say this really quickly. No one has resisted white domination the way Africans have. No one has. The Haitian Revolution was something that never succeeded in history. There was never a situation where the slaves overthrew the masters and formed their own nation. Okay, we know we talk about Spartacus. Spartacus got crucified. All right, all his Spartacus followers died and got crucified. So no other enslaved, oppressed people were able to overcome their oppressors. African people were fighting back on the slave ships. They, even at their very worst, naked, chained up, they were still fighting back. That African fighting spirit has never gone anywhere. So I think that we really have to understand that African people have never been docile in this system. You know, just the other day, I was, it was Christmas the other day. I read about the Christmas rebellion in Jamaica. We talk about Paul Bogle. We talk about in Guadalupe, all the revolts and the uprisings that were done by African people. The very first, just for example, the very first settlement that was, the Spanish tried to settle in South Carolina in 1526, before St. Augustine, before Jamestown. What happened? The Africans overthrew the Spanish and drove them out. So there's too much history behind this to even take these claims seriously. Not to say there's not going to be no setbacks, there's not going to be no losses, but the struggle continues, and we will win. You have to have a revolutionary optimism. I believe we can overcome. I know we will overcome. It's only a matter of time. I'll leave it there.
Appreciate it. Let's get into some shout outs before we go. Let's start off with Oni. Oni, you want to shout anything out this week?
Nah. Shout out to you. Shout out to the new year. Shout out to the fam. Shout out to everybody on the panel, including Black Steel. No, I'm joking. Black Steel. I just messed with Black Steel.
I love you too, nigga.
You said what? I didn't hear what you said, but
I said love you too, bro. No homo.
Pause. Whoa. Yo, we leaving that in 2023, my guy. But not even my guy. That's man, American Lego. All right. But yeah. So that's pretty much it. Oh yeah, tomorrow I'm gonna do some Nearly Fuller. I'm trying to write this book and I'm taking too long, so I'm just gonna do some old bullshit, while time passes. Other than that, everything's cool. Although I really do want to know whose man's this. That's about it though.
Appreciate that, Oni. Black Steel, want to shout anything out this week?
Today is January 6th. It's the white man's Juneteenth. Just gonna shout out that black security guard who shot that white woman trying to break through the Capitol building. Shout out to him. Peace and blessings upon him. But yeah, just remember that a lot of white people was just shot. How dare he kill her? He murdered, whatever. You know what? Stupid. You make stupid choices, man. You get stupid rewards. So. But yeah, that's the only thing I want to shout out for white man's Juneteenth. Yeah.
Yeah, Juneteenth.
Yeah.
Real Black Gentleman, want to shout anything out this week? Okay, I guess Real Black Gentleman is not.
No,
there.
no, I'm here. I just going to give a shout out to those, you know what I'm saying, who's making leaps and bounds. And
real black, you high. You sound like you high, bro.
Oh man, did y'all see what happened out in Utah with that dude who like leapt at the courthouse? Did I miss that? Did y'all talk about that?
No, we didn't talk about it. But that
was my yeah, I'm gonna give a shout out to Black Genetics. You know what I'm saying? Our people's cleared the monitor. Look. I'm gonna give a shout out to Black Genetics.
Yeah, he dropped in on that white woman judge like it was a game of Fortnite, man. He was over that thing and putting blows on that bitch too. And they was trying to punch him in his back and all that shit, man. He didn't give a shit about that. He was focused on that woman, man. I'll repost the video on the community tab. Last but not least, Buan, you want to shout anything out this week?
No, shout out. No, I don't want to shout out anybody. I want to challenge the brothers and sisters under the sound of my voice. This is a year of power. This is a year of power for us. Whatever plans that you have, for this particular year, go after it. Whatever ideas that you thought about doing that you've been hesitant on, go after it. This is a year of power for us. Let's try to see if we can live our dreams in real life, not in speculation. So I would suggest the brothers, them, to challenge the sisters as well, to challenge them to go after whatever idea that you may have had in your head and you haven't really manifested yet. Have the tenacity and go after it in 2024. I'll leave it there.
Appreciate all of you who contributed to the show tonight. You know what? On our way out of here, let's do this. On our way out of here, let me hit you over this.
African spirits looking over high. Oh, my African spirits, guide and protect I. Oh, my African spirits, please, my African spirits, take your guide and protect I. Take your protect I. Bones of I and I forefathers, I and I arise.
I and I arise. Peace. See y'all next week, man. Y'all take care.
Thanks for listening to the Bitter Medicine Podcast with your host, Koku. If you like what you just heard, we hope you pass along our web address, bittermedicineblogs.com, to your friends and colleagues, and share our show to all your social media. Be sure to check out our archive section on our website for previous podcasts. This has been a KWAZ radio production. Join us next time for another session of the Bitter Medicine Podcast. Follow us on Facebook at Bitter Medicine Show, Twitter, Bitter Meds, Tumblr, Bitter Meds, Instagram, Bitter Medicine.